A general rule for Isekai protagonists is that they tend to be overpowered. On some level, this makes perfect sense. Characters that are brought to another world are brought there to serve a specific purpose, saving that world from destruction or ruin in some way. So, welcome back to Animeology, and today we'll show you the top 10 animes where the main character is super strong, overpowered badasses. Before we begin, be sure to drop a like and subscribe down below for more top 10 animes. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Number 10. Arifuretta, From Commonplace to World's Strongest. Arifuretta's story goes something like this. An entire class of students and their teacher are transported to another world as heroes. Our protagonist, Hajime, is betrayed by one of his classmates and falls into the abyss of a deep labyrinth. He's then forced to eat monster's flesh in order to survive, something that makes him very powerful. He then traverses the labyrinth, meets a companion in a 300-year-old vampire named Yu, and finishes the labyrinth. Despite the anime's name, Hajime becomes overpowered in the very first episode. There's no commonplace in this anime. And that's because the pacing was so fast that we never got to see the commonplace Hajime. Instead, we initially started the anime with a strong Hajime who then becomes world's strongest once he clears the first labyrinth and was able to create any weapon he desired. Number 9. Cautious Hero. The hero is overpowered, but overly cautious. The plot of this anime goes like this. A guy gets transported into another world by a goddess so that he can defeat the demon lord and his generals. Said guy then chooses to bring the goddess with him as his one item, and then where it diverges from Konosuba, the guy is completely overpowered, but the goddess is still useless. Seiya Ryugyun is the protagonist summoned from another world. From the very start, he takes his role as a hero very seriously and completely prepares himself for anything he might run into. And while this is his greatest strength, it's also his greatest weakness. There are many situations where Seiya is completely prepared, and yet he chooses to retreat just in case, putting off saving the world. Overall, Cautious Hero, the hero is overpowered but overly cautious, offers a fun and enjoyable comedy isekai with a likeable and quirky cast and enough serious moments to keep the stakes up, though is ultimately focused on its comedic elements, which are the main highlight. Number 8. The Eighth Son. Are you kidding me? The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me, introduces Wendelin von Brormeister, who becomes a magician after he begins reading his family library and realizes he has a talent for it. After being trained by the most powerful magician in the land and surpassing him, Wendelin sets on the road to become an adventurer. Since the series is largely about how much trouble being a part of a noble society is, Wendelin's power constantly has him thrown against larger and larger threats. He dispatches massive dragons with ease, clears out monster armies with little help. There seems to be no upper limit to his abilities. In a context, this anime proves to be a delightful watch right from the start. Its skillful portrayal of a man who gets transported to another time in a different body is entertaining. This adds vast amounts of dimensions to the whole series. While some parts, especially the magic and the adventure, can seem like nothing special, they add entertaining elements to the anime. Number 7. In Another World with My Smartphone. In Another World with My Smartphone is another isekai anime which sees the main character teleported to a fantastical world. Following in the popular footsteps of recent titles like Sword Art Online, Toyo Mochizuki dies before his time due to mistake by God. As an apology, the deity resurrects him in a fantasy world and allows the teenager to keep one item. Of all things, Toya picks his smartphone and is granted a few different powers. As this new world includes a range of elemental magic, which can only be used if a person shows an affinity for those types of spells, God makes sure that Toyo is able to access pretty much all of them. Toyo is like Kiruto on steroids. While owning a smartphone already puts him at an advantage over the people who exist in this universe, his ability to use any magic spell makes him really overpowered. Like the Black Swordsman, the high schooler tends to be unmoved by the events around him, often failing to show any emotion or fear. Number 6. Demon Lord Retry.
残念、どうやら君たちは私の前に立つ資格がないようだ。
Onu Akira is a game manager for Infinity Games. While logged in one day, Akira is transported to the world of the game and dons the body of his in-game persona, Demon Lord Kunai Hakuto. He then meets Aku, a girl with a troubled past, and they begin travelling together. However, the incredible strength of the Demon Lord attracts many enemies, and so Akira must thwart the attempts of entire countries looking to defeat the Demon Lord. Being a series primarily concerned with the adventures of the main character and his sidekick Masu-sama, Retry is not shy when it comes to bringing in the action. With so many people baying for the blood of the Demon Lord, we're almost guaranteed some juicy conflict in every episode. While the plot isn't necessarily anything new or special, Masu-sama Retry is a decent adventure. We're thrown into the mix the same way Onu Akira is thrown into the new world. A lot of moderately interesting things happen, and new characters important to the plot don't waste much time in making their appearance. It's a bona fide adventure series, and from that perspective, it is worth the watch. Number 5. Didn't I say make my abilities average in the next life? Hilariously, Adele isn't even the strongest person in her universe, but when she was reincarnated, she requested to be made into an average character. Hence the title of the anime, Didn't I Say to make my abilities average in the next life? And instead is made the average of all beings in that universe, which goes between single-cell creatures and an elder dragon. This makes her several thousand times more powerful than any average person, which means she excels at magical and physical abilities with ease. Even when she tries to cast bad spells, it fails and she winds up making more powerful versions that impress even advanced level magicians. Overall, this show is very light-hearted and features an Isekai element, a form of escapism that everyone would desire, and with a very happy vibe that resonates throughout the show. We see an overpowered main character in the anime, where it shows the character would spend good times with each character and mishaps along the way, but would still be in a positive attitude. Number 4. Log Horizon.
とはいえ、あと30秒もすれば、ナオツクの HP も。エレクトリカルパンチ!
We can talk about a Isekai anime where the main character transports into another world and becomes overpowered without mentioning the Log Horizon, which depicts, in a blink of an eye, 30,000 bewildered Japanese gamers whisked from their everyday lives into the world of the popular MMORPG Elder Tale, after the game's latest update, unable to log out. Moreover, among them is the socially awkward college student Shiru, whose confusion and shock lasts only a moment as a veteran of the game. He immediately sets out to explore the limits of his new reality. Log Horizons is an MMORPG at its core, and unlike SAO, the lives of the main characters aren't hanging off the edge of a cliff. So instead of sitting around doodling, they do something about it and build a new world within Elder Tales, forming a functional society for everyone to live peaceful, equal lives. Number 3. No Game, No Life. Sora and Shiro are two legendary gamers that form Blank and roam from game to game, defeating every player to win. The game ranges from action RPG to chess, quizzes, world games, you name it. While other players speculate that they may be cheaters, in reality they're a brother and sister team. Neat, who isolates themselves away from the rest of the world. Despite their social skills leaving a lot to be desired, their intelligence is unmatched. After an intense chess battle from an unknown player, they asked if they consider themselves born into the wrong world. That if a world exists where everything is decided within a game, shouldn't they have been born there? Without doubt they agree and are summoned into that very same world. No game, no life is fun, sometimes funny, and it has a very interesting visual style to it, but the sexual aspect is just ridiculously overplayed to the point of being too extreme. Number 2. Overlord. An Isekai series normally consists of a protagonist summoned into another world to help save it. However, that's not the case with Overlord. The anime's plot starts when Dive massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or DMMORPG, called Yggdrasil is released, standing out among other DMMORPGs due to its unusually high ability for the player to interact with the game. Just like all good things, this game also runs its course after 12 long years. The game servers are about to be shut down. Within the game there exists a guild, Anis Ol Gaun. Once consisting of 41 members, is credited as one of the strongest guilds in the game. In this guild, we have a skeletal overlord character named Momoga, who decides to stay in the game until the servers are shut down, but miraculously finds himself stuck in it. The game after the shutdown creates an alternative reality out of itself. He later renames himself Anis Ol Gaun, the ruler of the Tomb of Nazarick. With his newfound power and army of loyal followers, he decides to conquer the world. With hilarious character interactions and frequent displays of his godlike powers, this series is a must-see for any fans of Isekai. And number 1, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. If you thought being a slime would be a weak role, then you were mistaken, as Ryumu is one of the most powerful protagonists in isekai anime in recent years. Ryumu Tempest starts out That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime with the ability to absorb anything. So the first thing he absorbs is the dispersed magical energy of a massive dragon, and later the dragon itself. This turns him into a high-class fighter, and the character only continues to grow more powerful with each fight he's thrown into. There's only a few characters in the anime which are more powerful, and Ryumu has already surpassed them in light novels. In the meantime, he's capable of boosting people's magical abilities just by giving them a name, and possesses not only a dragon, but an ancient summon inside of him as well. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, or Tigress for short, despite seemingly a harem show, actually really isn't. The anime is very focused on the world building and how Ryumu would change how monsters and humans would live. Also, the action scenes are badass in this anime.
Perfect.